They say knowledge is power, but what if some knowledge was never meant to be known? There's a book, bound in cracked leather, its pages yellowed with time, whispering secrets that should never be spoken. Those who read from it vanish. Their bodies are never found. And yet, you're still listening. You want to know what happens next. But I have to warn you, once you hear this story, it might already be too late. In the heart of a forgotten town, hidden in the basement of an abandoned library, sits a book that no one dares to open. They call it the Grimoire of Shadows. It's not just a book. It's a curse, a doorway, a living nightmare waiting to be unleashed. Those who have turned its pages have encountered things beyond comprehension, things that reach out from the dark corners of reality. This is the story of the last person who found the grimoire, and what happened to them. It started with a man named Daniel, a rare book collector obsessed with uncovering lost texts. He had heard whispers of a forbidden book, something hidden away for centuries. No known records, no digital footprint, just stories passed down from frightened whispers. The only clue was an old librarian's diary, speaking of a book that hungers. Daniel was determined to find it. One night, after bribing his way into the ruins of Blackwood Library, he descended into the basement. Dust choked the air, the smell of old parchment mixed with something else, something rotten, and then he found it. The Grimoire of Shadows sat on an altar of stone, covered in ancient symbols. His hands trembled as he reached for it. That was his first mistake. Daniel wasn't a superstitious man. He believed in knowledge, not curses. So when he took the book home, he wasn't afraid. Not yet. He sat at his desk, pried open the heavy cover, and felt a chill creep up his spine. The ink inside seemed too fresh, the words shifting as if alive. Latin phrases twisted into something unreadable, yet his mind grasped their meaning. You who seek will be sought. His breath hitched. The room felt smaller. The shadows in the corners deepened, but he kept reading. Hours passed. The air grew thick. The pages whispered, not in ink, but in voices, some pleading, others laughing. A presence filled the room, unseen but undeniable. And then the scratching began. At first it was soft,